everybody. It's another week of our podcast, Married to Real Estate, and we have lasted another week. We haven't been divorced yet.
The day is still young, but you never know.
The day is young, and we'll just see. But I'm Bruce DeMail, and I am joined by my lovely wife, Kelly DeMail, and we feel like Mythbusters today, don't we?
We do, because today's topic is what TV gets wrong about real estate and maybe even what they get right, which is a little bit. So thanks for joining us today. And you guys, please rate and follow us everywhere that you watch and you listen to your podcasts. And you can hit that bell button so that you're notified of when our next podcast drops.
Okay, so, Kel, why are we talking about TV and real estate today?
Well, I am sure everybody listening will relate to this because you and I have spent many hours sitting on the couch with the popcorn, whatever, and watching, oceanfront bargains, whatever, right? Well, we've watched so many of these shows and we're like, now, you are not getting the 10,000 square foot oceanside retreat on the side of the cliff for $200,000 and a bologna sandwich. Like, no. I'm hitting the bullshit button, BS, 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 right? And I'm sure you guys, if you've watched these shows, you're in the same boat. I guarantee you 99% of us have looked at these shows and looked at each other going, no, this cannot be real. You can't buy that house for that amount. You can't remodel that house, the entire house, for $30,000, right? So that's why we're talking about this. They put a nice little spin on it, right? This is reality TV. Their job is to sell viewership and sell sponsorships and all that good stuff. But it is the furthest thing from reality, in my opinion, as a real estate agent for 20-some years.
I feel like we're the new government administration calling them fake news.
Well, I wish I was wrong, because I'm pretty sure all of us would be hopping on a plane to Cabo to get an oceanside retreat, but
I'd be the first one. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So let's get into this and answer a couple of questions. The reality TV shows seem to have people come in and very quickly, and I know that they have a half hour or an hour, but whatever, even in real life, they seem to sell those homes very quickly. That in real life, that doesn't seem to happen because we do it every day. But what do you think? What do you think is the truth behind those?
Well, the good thing is I don't think I have to think, right? Full disclosure, Bruce and I know a couple different people that have actually gone through this on different shows, right? And because of the NDAs that they all have to sign and they can't talk about it, they can't come on camera to talk about it, but we've had behind the scenes, conversations. We know a little bit about this, right? And this is one of those things that is just for TV, right? So these shows make it look like this is all happening super quickly, but in reality, the majority of the time the house is already purchased before the show is taking place. They've already signed on the dotted line and gone through the whole process, but now the show is going to come on in and make it look like it's happened in 3 days or 1 day. The people come in, they look at 3 homes, they're going to choose from the 3 homes or whatever the situation is. And that's really not how it happened. That's just what they're doing for the show. So it looks like maybe the house is vacant. They're looking at it and then they come back in and take a picture now after they've moved in and look at how great it is, right? Well, they've moved the stuff out. They've done all of this stuff and then they've moved the furniture back in for the final. But yeah, they already know the outcome. So that's kind of one of the
TV.
Fake TV, yes. But obviously follow a buyer for a month or 2 months or 6 months, especially if you're buying out of the country or you're buying out of state, right? Your visits to that area may be few and far between or, may take some time for you to find something, but they make it look very quick and very easy. So that is kind of a non-reality part of the show.
But it's TV, right? They need their ratings, they need the viewers, they need to make it exciting, they need to make it unbelievable. Right? Which they do, right? The timeline makes it unbelievable. The pricing makes it unbelievable. The renovations make it unbelievable. And that's what people just get sucked into.
Well, again, it sells shows, right? It sells sponsors, sells viewers, whatever. It does. It brings you in. And you brought up a really good point. Talking about the renovation shows, that's another one that's really it's hard to wrap your brain around, especially being in this business. We know, right? We've worked with clients who have renovated their houses or are building from scratch. We know there's no way you're remodeling, 15, 16, 1700 square feet completely top to bottom with, Joanna Gaines finishes, right? Or whatever for 30 grand. I mean, it's just not happening. So let's talk about how do they make that happen? What's some of the behind the scenes stuff that we know they do?
So really quick, getting back to our sources, right? If we were thinking about this, we could have brought them in, blacked them out, put the old hoodie over
the Darth Vader voiceover.
The Darth Vader voice. Maybe for another podcast. But anyway, so we found out that the shows sometimes, probably more often than not, help kick in for some of the renovations. So they don't count that. That's really part of the potential, let's call it payment to the clients that they have on the show.
And just like you mentioned, the show kicks in, Bruce, so do some of the sponsors. So if you're getting, whatever, I'm not going to name a company, but let's just say ABC, blah, 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 is giving you the flooring, right? They may kick in a portion of the flooring, or the person doing the show isn't charging for the labor, right? They might just be charging for products. So I think those are some of the ways that when you look at these incredible renovations that are being done for super low, that's how they can offset some of those things. But the sad reality again, is that it sucks us all in thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to go out and, buy a home and renovate it, and I'll only be into that for 30 grand or 40 grand, right? And that's, as we know, at least in our area, we can't speak for everywhere, but in our area, that is just not happening.
Well, I'm going to guess that you've had clients, right? Because these reality TV shows have been on forever. But I'm going to guess that you've had clients when you're talking about renovations on their home or renovations to a home that they're looking to buy. And when you start talking about dollar amounts, you probably had some comments from clients about the TV shows and how come they can do it so cheap, especially if the buyers, are the ones that have to spend the money, right? Mm-hmm. So to me, it's misleading, and we kind of have to justify what's really going on. And hopefully in the podcast, that's what we're doing, right?
Right. There's a lot of people out there that think this is real, which I shouldn't say a lot. There's probably a small percentage that thinks some of this is real. But yeah, it is just bringing people down to earth a little bit in regards to that. What you see on TV isn't really how it works. And as we mentioned earlier, this looks like they can do it all in 3 days. Well, I could give you a list of buyers that I've worked with over the past, 20 some years that would say, no, it's not that simple, right? We lost out on 4 offers before we got the 5th one. We were knee deep into it and hit an inspection and something came up and nope, we're backing out, right? So it's just not that simple. I think thankfully, and you get smarter as you go, but I think it certainly isn't the process that you see on TV for sure.
No, it seems way too easy, especially when they show people riding on the beach with bicycles or swimming in the pool and having that time in between showing houses and looking at houses. And, I'd love to do that. Maybe we should go. Maybe we should go out.
Did you see I sat out in our Four Seasons today with like a little palm in the back for a little tropical feel today? I was thinking about putting my Hawaiian shirt on.
Weren't you just in Costa Rica? Kind of gives you a little Costa Rica feel.
We should have. Actually, it's funny because when Bruce and I were down in Costa Rica, every time we travel, we look at real estate. We look at what's going on in the market. We look at what the typical pricing is and everything like that. And this is a great segue into pricing. So, what you see on TV, is that real pricing? Is that real market pricing? And I know, Bruce, you chatted with a few people, and I'd love for you to share that story that you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, so generally on the shows that we've seen, we see them look at 3 properties, right? One is the subject property that they've already purchased. Amenities and the furniture have been moved out, so it makes it look vacant, like they're just looking at it. And the other couple of properties that they pick, so we've heard the pricing gets inflated, right? So the property they end up picking, which was theirs already, looks like a great deal. Right. So now you get inflated prices on not fictitious houses, but ones that are for sale that aren't selling for that much. And you've got a pricing that's really not believable. I mean, when we were down in Costa Rica, we saw firsthand some houses that were super affordable, 1,700 to 2,200 square feet, single level with a pool, but it's in the middle of the jungle, right? It's not on the beach, and it's going to rain all day. And so location in a lot of those areas, to me, makes a huge difference, right? Because we loved Costa Rica and we looked at going back, but doing different things and going to a different place. We also looked at some VRBO costs on the beach, and VRBO costs on the beach for almost the same types of houses with pools, but with a beach view in a different area, anywhere from $4,000 a month to $41,000 a month, right? So if they're getting that kind of price from just renting them out, really, what do you think the price of the house is going to be if you turn around and buy it, right? It's going to be in the millions of dollars. So the justification of buying, like you said, that 10,000 square foot house with a view for $200,000 is quite ridiculous.
Yeah, sign me up all day long if that's what it is, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, on top of that, the pricing being off, one of our sources, Deep Throat, whatever we'll call them.
We'll call them DV for short, Darth Vader.
Yeah, one of our sources said, even looking at when they do reality for rentals, like finding people in an apartment, that those prices are inflated or deflated sometimes to make them look, wow, what a great deal. I'm going to get to live in this 3-bedroom apartment overlooking whatever for $300 a month, especially in different countries, right? So they make it look like, wow, so everybody should be looking down here. And so again, is it misleading? I don't know. But let's talk about what are some other maybe common myths that would make people believe just because they watch these reality shows.
I think the first one that obviously comes to mind is that they think that people on TV are getting a deal. Where, are they really? I think from a disclosure standpoint, right? The TV shows are so short that we don't see a lot of the behind the scenes. We don't see a lot, like we talked about before, a lot of the time that it takes to look for the house. We don't see a lot of the negotiations. We don't know exactly where the house is, what kind of issues there are with the house. Why is it so cheap compared to the house next door that's $500,000 more? So I think it's the perception of getting a deal. And again, that gets back to the reality part of the TV show where they have to make it look great so that they keep people watching.
Right. Yeah. And I think, one of the other things too, it makes it look like they're having such a hard time picking the property. And, we know that they've already purchased it. Not that that's not reality, because reality is sometimes it is very difficult for buyers to decide, or maybe they don't have that many choices. So that's probably closer to a reality versus a myth, that it really is hard sometimes picking it. But like I said, they've already purchased this property. So.
And well, we already touched on this, where renovations cost is a myth. The fact that some of these houses need renovations is not a myth, right? But the cost definitely is. I mean, they might be getting the guy down the street that's been sitting on the ground for a while to be their painter who ends up painting their front porch. Who knows? So I don't know where I'm going with that.
I don't know where you got that one, but
let's move on from that one.
Maybe you need to take a break.
Maybe I do. I'll stop talking. I've been fighting for airtime, and I appreciate the fact that you let me introduce this podcast. So I think I've almost worn out my welcome.
Yeah. I'm going to hit the delete button, remember?
Perfect.
Anyway, so let's talk. We've talked enough about maybe what they do wrong or how they can be misleading. But do these shows, have they ever really nailed a realistic depiction of the process, whether you're buying or selling or renting or whatever?
In preparation for the podcast, you and I talked about the flip shows, right? Where they flip houses. I think if there's a reality TV show that depicts as close as possible, are those shows. Because to me, when I think back of on watching some of those, they run into unexpected expenses, right? They buy this house, sometimes sight unseen. They walk in, walls are knocked out, appliances are missing. They get into the renovation. They find out under the kitchen floor that they've had a big pipe that's burst and it leaks. And now they've got an extra $10,000 of cost to dig up the floor and dig up this pipe. That stuff's real.
Very.
Right? And these guys aren't shy about showing how much work it is and how much it costs. And I think from a renovation standpoint, that's really good. That's what gets viewership, right? And so they can tell the truth or 90% of the truth and have people very interested, because a lot of people don't do the flips, right?
Right. And we've done it.
We have.
We've done flips in our past, and we get it 100%. I mean, you always build in a little contingency, but every once in a while you get that house and you were just like, man, we were not planning for that, right? So I agree. I think out of all the reality shows, not that that's probably 100% accurate, everything that they depict on the flips versus the flops and all the, not to infringe on anybody's name, trademark or whatever, but
you just did.
Or point fingers, right? I'm just, whatever,
right.
It just comes to mind. But I'm sure that it's not all 100% accurate, but I do feel that they get closer to reality than most. And you're right. Like, you're afraid someone's maybe squatting in the corner when you finally get in, because sometimes you're buying these houses without even being able to get inside, right? So who knows what you get when you open the door. So I think that's a good show in terms, or good types of shows from a reality standpoint. So they can make money and they can get burnt.
Yeah. Yeah. So as we're talking about, I guess, good things about these shows, what if our viewers are watching or have ever watched these shows, are there some things that they can pull away from it that really help them in real life, whether buying or selling? Is there anything that you ran across that they could take away from that's actually real?
Sure. I think there's a couple things just right off the top of my head that I would say. Number one, I love the fact that it encourages people to maybe look at properties elsewhere. Second homes, investment properties. Obviously, the reality of what the actual cost is might put you in check, but I love that it gets people outside of, their home state or their hometown to buy additional properties. We all know the fastest way to creating your own personal wealth is through owning real estate. So I love that people look at that. The second thing I think that they do a good job in depicting is that home shopping and buying a home, it can be a lot of fun, and I think they show the people having a good time and, maybe having a margarita in between showings. I wish we did that. I mean, have fun with it, right? I mean, I get that it's stressful, but boy, we can really, put a good twist on it and have a good time.
Yeah. Speaking of stressful, the home buying part can be stressful. It's not all fun and games and margaritas and riding bikes on the beach. And that's the stuff that they really don't have time to show on TV. That's where people like you and I come in, right? Because we do this all the time. We build relationships where we just want to make it fun for buyers and sellers. So we help take that stress away. But that's one thing that people can actually take away from those shows is, well, I guess not a reality, but the reality is it's not that easy.
Right. 100%. And I would say, we've kind of talked already about what buyers and sellers should be aware of, some of those misconceptions just by watching the program. But just know, reality TV for real estate is really the exact opposite of what it says. It's just not reality. It's entertainment. Take the fun out of it. Take the entertainment out of it. But if you're serious about wanting to buy or sell, whether it's locally or in a different state or country, you just need to make sure that you're connected with somebody who's really well-versed in that area, that can be a resource for you. Have them check on that local market, renovation costs in that market, rental costs in that market. You definitely want to have a local resource no matter where you're buying or selling.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now that brings up a good point. I mean, we've been talking about our experiences and our sources, that gave us a lot of this information, credible sources, by the way. And the thing that I would like that would be interesting is to have everybody that's watching or listening to just comment, put put in the comments, hey, what experience have you had? Or what do you think about these TV shows? And, whether it's good or bad, whether you think we're right or wrong. I mean, I'd love to see what our listeners and viewers think.
Yeah. And honestly, to all of our friends in TV land, no hard feelings. Like, I will tell you, I love these shows. I mean, I love them. I watch them all the time. It is entertaining. I do learn stuff, right? I mean, there's still things that you can learn from these shows. So just go into it with an open mind, right? That it's for entertainment. You will learn certain things. The good thing is you're going to learn about different states and markets a little bit. You're going to see some great aerial shots, views of the cities that they're selling in. So that's really kind of fun and entertaining as well. But ultimately, it is what it is. So continue to watch them because they're a bootload of fun. But know that when you really do need some real answers here, just reach out to someone that you know and you trust that can give you that guidance.
Well, and when you and I watched the show where they bought lake house property for $300,000 and we know it was well over $1 million, I think we started looking. We wanted to find that $300,000 $1 million house, right?
Well, that's what it does, right? It gets everybody excited. So that is not a bad thing, being a real estate agent. Please keep watching the shows, you guys, because it gets people excited about buying real estate. And we love that. That's a huge plus for reality TV and for real estate. And I'll tell you guys, reality real estate shows did wonders for the real estate market. I mean, not only is it the shows that make it glamorous and fun, but there are the shows that show that it's tough. It's tough out there. This isn't all fun. There's a little bit of going on and, some good, bad, and ugly out there. So it really, I think, opened up everybody's eyes to real estate in general, whether it's for entertainment or not. So I think that was a huge plus for the real estate industry.
And I love the fact that we can hop on something like this podcast and either be the mythbusters or pull back the curtain or debunk some things that are said. We can be the critiquers and tell you exactly what it's like, because we do have the experience, right? And we kind of know what we're talking about.
A little bit. With that being said,
yeah,
time to wrap up. So thanks again for listening, you guys. So this week's episode is kind of fun, talking about reality versus non-reality. And in 2 weeks, our next podcast, we are going to be talking about working with your spouse. Is it fun or is it fatal? We aren't necessarily going to be talking about real estate per se. We're going to be talking about working together in the same environment all the time, and then, separating that from real life and business life. So hopefully you can join us for that.
Yeah, if you guys don't remember, obviously Kelly and I are married. Obviously we run a successful real estate business. What some of you might not know is that our business is run out of our home. And so we both work from home. I am in our office, as you can see. Kelly wanders around the house and works all around the house.
My office is every other room.
Just to stay away from each other, to be able to not interrupt when we're on the phone. But those are a lot of the obstacles that we've overcome. We want to share those. We want to get into that on our next episode as well.
Yeah. So thanks for watching our Married to Real Estate podcast. Make sure you rate and follow us everywhere you watch or listen to your podcast, you guys. Hit that like button, subscribe, all the good things. Click the bell icon so that you receive new episode notifications. And please feel free to throw any comments, feedback, questions down below. Like we said earlier, we would love to hear your stories and answer any questions that you have.
And make sure that you keep it real.
Have a great week. We'll see you next time.
Bye.